Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Meetinghouse of Provincetown, where we affirm the inherent worthiness and dignity of every person, and where we support each other on our spiritual search for truth and meaning. My name is Reverend Kate Wilkinson, and I am so glad that you have joined us this morning. Welcome to those of you in the room, and welcome also to those of you joining us via our live stream. And a particularly warm welcome to some of my high school friends who are here this morning. Kristen lent them hats so that they could be real church ladies today. Before we begin our worship service, I do have just a few announcements to share. First, welcome to John Thomas, who is filling in for Mary this morning as our choir director. It's great to have him with us soon. Tonight is his last Great Music on Sundays at 5 concert of the season, and we hope you can all come back for that at 5 o'clock. It's going to be an amazing grand finale of the 26th Great Music season, featuring a dozen singers doing the big finales of their favorite Broadway shows. So we hope you can come back for that. On Saturday night, September 28th, over at the Gifford House, the Generations Project is hosting a storytelling show called Love in the Dark, about how this meeting house supported the LGBTQ community during the AIDS pandemic here in Provincetown. And some of our longtime members will be panelists, and we hope that you can join us to hear their stories that evening. Tickets are on sale now for this event through Eventbrite. If you are new to the Meeting House, or even if you've been hanging out with us for a long time but haven't ever officially joined, I want to invite you to our next new member class, which will be held on Zoom on Monday, October 28th from 5 to 7 p.m. Learn a little bit more about us and our history, about Unitarian Universalism, and then get a chance to sign our membership book. You can sign up for this Zoom class this morning at coffee hour. There's a sign-up sheet downstairs on our welcome table, or you can fill out the form at the top of our website, uumh.org. This is all totally accessible to those of you who join us online. We hope that you will consider learning more about and becoming a member of this fabulous spiritual community. And finally, if you are attending in person today, we hope that you will stay a little while after the service for coffee and conversation downstairs in Acker Bosworth Hall or out on our lawn. It's a gorgeous day. Let's take a moment now to affirm our Meeting House covenant, and you can find this printed on the purple laminated cards in your pews, but I'm going to say it line by line, and you can just repeat each line back to me. Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
This is our great covenant.
This is our great covenant.
To dwell together in peace.
To dwell together in peace.
To seek the truth in love.
To seek the truth in love.
And to help one another. Now, as we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you watching from home to light a candle wherever you are. In this way, we can feel connected even while we are apart. And this morning, I invite our worship host, Shar, and Reverend Bill Clark to light our chalice for us.
Our chalice reading this morning is by our words by Elena Westbrook. In a world ravaged by violence, by hatred, by conflicts that seem eternal and insoluble, sometimes the only thing we can do is be still for a moment. To remind ourselves what is real, the sun that rose this morning, the sand under our feet, the air whispering in and out of our lungs. This hour, Try just to be present in each moment as it unfolds. Your simple attention is what makes these moments holy.
Won't you please join me now in singing our opening hymn, number 1031 in our teal hymnals. These ones here, it's called Filled with Loving Kindness. And this is a musical version of a meditation where we send our love out into the world in growing circles of care. So we're going to sing it 3 times. First, Brenda's going to play it through once, then we're going to sing it 3 times. The first time we're going to sing it using the word I, the second time with the word you, and the third time with we. So this is hymn number 1031 in the teal hymnals, Filled with Loving Kindness. Please rise as you are able. You may be seated. I invite you to join me in a spirit of meditation and prayer. It's really just continuing that moment that we've established with that beautiful song. After the prayer, we will sing together again, Spirit of Life, hymn number 123 in the gray hymnals. And you can also find the words to that song printed on those same purple laminated cards in your pews. We'll sing first in English and then in Spanish. As we enter our prayer time together, I just want to recognize that many of us are grieving this week for a young musician in the Provincetown community who often played flute here at the Meetinghouse for Great Music at 5 and other special events. Our hearts go out to Eric Maul's family and all of his Provincetown friends who are so shaken by his recent death. And I hold you all in love. Our meditation this morning is by Samuel Trumbore. I invite you, he says, into a time of gratitude, reflection, renewal, and hope. Even in times of grief, what an unearned blessing to delight in the calming peace of this space, to feel the warmth in this room, and to enjoy the promise of this day. Each moment of wakefulness has so many gifts that offer energy and delight. Now, too often they seem unavailable as the weight of our troubles press down on us. The threats to our well-being, real or exaggerated, feel like mosquitoes in the night looking for a place to land. Minds become captive to rising floodwaters, forceful, murky, threatening, and ominous. Even in moments of great danger, the direction of attention is a choice. Fear can dominate the mind, binding it like a straitjacket, or love can unbind it and open it to resource and opportunity. The soil of the mind can be watered with kindness. The thorns can be removed one by one to appreciate the buds ready to flower. Amen.
Our reading this morning is entitled The Tree by Eve Ensler. You know Eve Ensler, right? She's the woman who wrote the Vagina Monologues. She's a fierce defender of women's rights around the world and also a cancer survivor. The following passage is taken from her memoir, and in this part of her story, she's at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, New York, receiving chemotherapy for some really invasive cancer. In this part of her story, she's not sure if she's going to beat it. From her bed, she notices a tree outside her window. She writes, "I was too weak to think or write or call or even watch a movie. All I could do was stare at the tree, which was the only thing in my view. At first, it annoyed me, and I thought I would go mad from boredom. But after the first days and many hours, I began to see the tree. On Tuesday, I meditated on bark. On Friday, the green leaves shimmering in the late afternoon light. For hours, I lost myself, my body, my being dissolving into tree. I was raised in America," Eve writes. "All value lies in the future, in the dream, in production. There is no present tense. There is no value in what is. Only in what might be made or exploited from what already exists. Of course, the same was true for me. I had no inherent value. Without work or effort, without making myself into something significant, without proving my worth, I had no right or reason to be here. Life itself was inconsequential unless it led to something, unless it led to something. Unless the tree would be wood, would be house, would be table, what value was there to tree? So, to actually lie in my hospital bed and see the tree, to enter the tree, to find the green life inherent in the tree, this was the awakening." She continues, "Each morning I opened my eyes. I could not wait to focus on tree. I would let tree take me. Each day it was different. Based on the light or the wind or rain, tree was a tonic and a cure, a guru and a teaching. I was not writing or producing or on the phone or making anything happen. I was not contributing much more than my appreciation of tree, my love of green, my commitment to trunk and bark, my celebration of branch, my insane delight over the gentle May blossoms that were beginning to flower everywhere." This ends the reading.
Now is the time when we take a collection for the ongoing support of this Meetinghouse and our shared ministry. As we enjoy a musical reflection by our choir, we welcome your donations here in the sanctuary or online through PayPal or Venmo. You can find that information on our website, uumh.org. Augie, do you want to take the collection today? Yes. So Augie and two other volunteers, any of you can come forward to take up our collection. On and off site, your offerings will be gratefully received.
I couldn't help you. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I feel like it's time for us to do some election prep work here. November is inching up on us, and it's time to start talking about it. The religious conservatives certainly are. Now, I have every confidence that you are all registered to vote, except for Augie. He's too young. And that you know the importance of participation in the democratic process. I have every confidence that you already understand what is at stake in November. I don't feel I need to preach a sermon about those things. So this morning I'm going to focus on another piece of being prepared for election season, because I really believe that one way or another, November is going to be a very challenging time in our country. And I want us to be a little bit ready for that. So this morning we are talking about presence. We're delving into this idea of presence as in being present. In November, I want us to be a community of presence. And what does that mean? Well, it has to do with how we are showing up for each other, how we are showing up for our life, how we are showing up for this moment. And I'll explain how this relates to election seasons later, but first just follow me as we begin to explore this idea of being a community of presence. Poet Mary Oliver says, "This is the first, the wildest, and the wisest thing I know, that the soul exists and is built entirely out of attentiveness." So are we paying attention? Are we being attentive? Are we present? To work on presence is helpful to our own spirituality, but it is also helpful to how we show up in the world. Inspirational speaker Maston Kipp asks, at the end of the day, do others feel loved in your presence? This is the spiritual bottom line. At the end of the day, do others feel loved in your presence? And spiritual leader Thich Nhat Hanh says, when you love someone, the best thing you can offer is your presence. How can you love if you are not there, he asks. The most precious gift we can offer others is our presence. When mindfulness embraces those we love, he says, they will bloom like flowers. And we don't always make that connection that what we practice in our own spiritual practices, coming back to the breath and meditation, taking in the beauty of the trees outside our window or on our walks in the woods, or coming into the rhythm of the waves at the beach, the attentiveness of lighting a candle on our altars. All of this is preparing us for being present, not just for our own spiritual moments, but also for each other. It's all connected. Returning to the breath on the meditation cushion helps us later when we are in a heated conversation and we want to yell, and suddenly we remember that we can actually take a breath then, a deep breath, before responding if we are angry, especially if we are angry. Focusing rituals like lighting a candle at the prayer table or pouring water during water communion last week, all those spiritual rituals help us to learn attentiveness. They help us to notice things. They help us to focus on one thing at a time. Quieting our minds through prayer each Sunday helps us to quiet our anxieties during the week when we are out in the world and it's just starting to be too much for us. All the things that we practice to get to that presence of the holy also help us to be present ourselves. Now, our cell phones, which ping and light up and flash colors and reward our brain for mindless engagement, will not help us with this. Watching the news and trying to take in the too loud announcer while also reading the floating headlines at the bottom will not help us with this. Eating sugar and drinking alcohol and popping pills to numb ourselves a little from all that pains us will not help with this. But our spiritual practices will. Many years ago, we started offering a winter spirituality series at the Meetinghouse, and the first 2 workshops that we offered were on listening, deep listening. On the first day, we all recounted how challenging it can be to stay in the moment when we are talking to someone. We listen to the first part of what someone is saying, but then our mind tunes out to start formulating our response, right? Instead of listening all the way through to what's really being said, we change over to what we think is going to be said, so our mind is already racing ahead, jumping to conclusions, putting words in someone else's mouth. We get distracted by the environment or our own thoughts, and we forget to listen at all. Together in that workshop, led by Alan Anthony, we brainstormed ways to be better listeners. It was a lot about being present. And we all agreed it takes practice. It takes practice to be a deep listener. But how good it feels to be listened to, right? To be heard. When you love someone, the best thing you can offer is your presence. During the pandemic, there were so many challenging things, so many losses, but there were a few things that we gained too. And one thing that I think this community gained was learning how to be better listeners through our Zoom coffee hours. No, really. I think this has changed us and made us a better congregation. The very first week of the COVID lockdown, we came up with a format of asking a question each week based on the theme of the service on Sunday, and taking turns during coffee hour in small randomized Zoom breakout groups to answer. When it's not our turn, we stay muted. Zoom helps with that. There's a button for it. When we share our answer, we don't have to worry about how others are going to respond, because we don't respond. We just listen. We give that space. And when we are done sharing, we invite someone else to share, so everyone gets a turn. At first, this was a little awkward. We wanted to jump in. We wanted to give feedback or say, that reminds me of a story, or say, you don't have to feel that way. But we practiced. We still slip up sometimes, but we practice. We learn. And the quality of our listening improved. And the quality of our sharing, as we built up that trust, deepened. If we are really a community of presence, then this is a gift that we can offer one another, to truly listen to each other, to truly be present with one another. There's an organization called Calmer Choice that teaches students here on Cape Cod about mindful awareness. They believe that mindfulness can help kids to manage stress, control emotions, deal with conflict, and even stand up to bullies. Here's how they define mindful awareness: paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, to what is happening right now, both internally and externally, with kindness and curiosity. Paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, to what is happening right now, both internally and externally, with kindness and curiosity. Here's one of the tools that they offer students, which I have shared with you before. Thanks to Zoe Wolf for teaching this to us years ago at one of the Martin Luther King Day events in Wellfleet. Do you remember it? It's called the 5-fingered meditation. And it's a practice that's available to us all the time, just with our hands. And we're going to trace our fingers using the pointer finger of our other hand. And when we go up the finger, we're going to inhale. And when we go down the finger, we're going to exhale. So let's all try that now, okay? We start with an inhale. Do you feel a little more present now? I can feel how the energy has changed in the room. I really feel that. Okay, so why am I talking about all this now? Presence is a lovely thing to study and worship, yes, yes. But Reverend Kate, have you not noticed what is happening in our country right now? It's election season. Everything is at stake. Everything is frightening. Have you not noticed what is happening in the world? People are dying. Wars are persisting. Everything is calling us to do something. Why are you slowing us down? Why are you releasing our energy? Don't we need that frantic energy to fuel the resistance? Maybe some of these thoughts have been keeping you from being totally present this morning. But here's why I'm talking about presence today. We are going to be much more effective in our resistance and persistence if we are a community of presence. If we are a community that knows how to listen to one another. If we are a community that knows how to be there for one another. If we are a community that knows to breathe before reacting. If we are a community that knows how to slow down, how to center ourselves, how to stand up for ourselves mindfully. I remember taking part in the Boston Women's March in 2017 after another particularly fraught election season, remember? We had a lot of emotion happening that January, and we just needed to do something with that energy. So we went to this march, and I attended it with many of you. And it felt exciting and powerful to gather. It was fabulous to be in a crowd of 175,000 people. But it also meant that the crowd was so deep that from where we were standing, we couldn't actually hear any of the speakers. We stood for hours just waiting for the march part to happen. And occasionally, an impatient cheer from the back of the crowd would start up, "March, march, march." But the speeches went on and on. And then finally, hooray, we started marching to do something. But a sea of 175,000 people was trying to get out of the fenced-in Boston Common through gates, sometimes just a few feet wide, onto streets already crowded with march participants. It was time to march, but we weren't going anywhere. And this could have been a disaster. Someone could have started pushing and it would have been chaos. People would have gotten hurt. But just as the crowd was really getting frustrated, a young woman came over the loudspeaker, one of the march organizers. We're really organized for this march, she told us. It was all very carefully planned out, and everything is going according to plan, except that there are 3 times as many of you as we planned for. So you know what? She said, it's going to take a while for you to get onto the march route. It's going to take a very long while. So why don't you go ahead and turn to the people around you and find someone you didn't come with and introduce yourself. And that's what we did. 175,000 people meeting each other. And suddenly we were seeing the crowd with new eyes. We were seeing not just the crowd, but the people in the crowd, the individuals in the crowd, and we were learning their names. A minute before, we were hardly even present in our own bodies because we were so focused on where we wanted to be instead. We wanted to be on the other side of that gate. We wanted to be marching. But after that simple invitation, introduce yourself to the person sitting next to you, we became present to where we were and present to each other. And it changed the whole feeling of the march for me. And the march became a community of presence. You know what? Why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves to each other. Introduce yourself to someone sitting near you that you don't know. It doesn't have to be a long thing. Just tell them your name, say hi. Make sure everyone gets said hello to by someone. Thank you. Okay, I know that I could end right here. Give me a few more minutes, okay? Here's another reason why I'm talking about presence today. Dr. Heather Cox Richardson, professor of history at Boston College, who I know many of you follow, circulated a little warning to all of us a few years ago that still holds true today. And it's based on what she knows about behavior and the course of history. What some politicians are really good at, she said, is creating what is known as a shock event. And she wrote this after the Muslim ban in 2017, and this was way before anything like January 6th or even October 7th, but it all tracks. A successful shock event, she says, depends on speed and chaos because it requires knee-jerk reactions so that people divide along established lines. As society reels and tempers run high, those responsible for the shock event perform a sleight of hand to achieve their real goal, a goal they know to be hugely unpopular, but from which everyone has been distracted as they fight over the initial event. There's no longer concerted opposition to the real goal. Opposition divides along partisan lines established by the shock event. This has happened again and again since 2017, and it was a well-established pattern in the world way before that. It happened even the other night during the debate, because out of the whole debate and all the important policy differences that were talked about, what are we focusing on this week? Eating cats and dogs for dinner. A shocking statement that was made intentionally to distract from the real conversation. And whether we are busy making funny memes about it or scolding our friends for not realizing that this is an extremely racist trope that has been used for many generations to cast people as other, we are distracted from the rest of the conversation because we are busy with this. It's important to know how we are being played, to pay attention. Because we think we are smarter than the politicians, but we are often just not understanding what tools are being used on us. So what is our best defense against this? Our best defense is not the frantic energy of resistance, although at times that is useful, and I reserve my right to periodically preach from that place. But that frantic energy plays into the shock event. No. Our best defense is presence. Being present to what is happening. Being present to ourselves and how we are feeling. Being present to one another. Listening. Making our presence known by calling, emailing, showing up. Kazu Haga is a nonviolence trainer based in Oakland, California. He wrote a piece called The Urgency of Slowing Down. He says, yes, we are in an urgent moment in history, and we need to respond accordingly. We need to organize harder than ever, mobilize more people than ever, knock on doors more than ever, and fight like we've never fought before. But as we confront the urgency of the moment, how do we ensure that we are not organizing from a place of panic? When we move from a place of panic, he explains, our work happens with less mindfulness. We miss steps. We don't have the right information. Our strategies aren't as tight. We react as opposed to respond. We are easier to counter. We make mistakes. We are also much likelier to perpetrate the same systems of violence that we are trying to resist when we work from a frenzied place. Those with the loudest voices tend to take over, and we often lose the voices of those who are marginalized. We are more likely to emphasize actions over process and relationships, and we begin to distrust each other. Newer activists have a harder time finding a way in, feeding that exclusivity of activism. And we are less careful with our messaging, which can turn potential allies away. Now, like our own Wave and Kate Wallace Rogers, Haga spent some time at the Standing Rock protests in North Dakota in 2016. I can still hear the voices of the elders at Standing Rock, he says, reminding us that we need to slow down. That for Indigenous peoples, struggle is nothing new. We've been here before. That for them, everything they do is ceremony, prayer, ritual. And those are not things that you rush. You do it with intention, with all the time and respect that it deserves. The work of social change is stressful enough on its best days, Haga says. But if we are moving without intention, without mindfulness, without awareness of how we are moving, it can easily add to what is already a challenge. So what is our work moving forward, he asks? Organize, breathe, repeat. Organize, breathe, repeat. Even in moments of great danger, the direction of attention is a choice. Fear can dominate the mind, binding it like a straitjacket, or love can unbind it and open it to resource and opportunity. The soil of the mind can be watered with kindness. The thorns can be removed one by one to appreciate the buds ready to flower. Amen. And blessed be. Won't you join me in singing our closing hymn? It's number 1009 in these teal hymnals, Meditation on Breathing. John's going to lead us in the melody. We're going to do it many, many times. And after a time or two, I'm going to join in with a descant, which is a higher part. And if any of you want to join me in that, please do. It's the second line. We're just not going to worry about the third line. Let us begin. Number 1009, Meditation on Breathing. Please rise as you're able.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe out peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
You may be seated.
Well, as many of you know, it has become our practice to pose a question based on the theme of the service each week. It can be a topic of sharing at coffee hour today or with friends during the week. And if you'd like to delve deeper into this topic, we invite you to join our midweek Zoom coffee hour on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Please let Kenneth in the office know if you need that link. So the question this week is, what helps you to be present in this moment when your mind is racing? What helps you to be present in this moment when your mind is racing?
And I'll close by echoing those words by Mary Oliver. This is the first, the wildest, and the wisest thing I know, that the soul exists and is built entirely out of attentiveness. May we go out into the world today and pay attention. Go in peace.